And welcome back to the hottest marriage show in our household. I am John D. And this is
Kanika.
And we are doing Too Much podcast, where we talk about conversations that happen in our house to help you get through your day, because we are trying to figure it out. How are you doing?
I'm fine.
That's it. Just you just like, let's skip to it.
No, I'm doing all right. Yeah. You?
I'm good. I'm doing well, thank you. I really like this room. I feel like I'm almost outside, because the you can just hear so much that goes on. So it's like the safest place.
The real test is when we take this screen out and put that other piece of plexiglass and then see how 3-seasony is this room. How far are we going to get into the fall before it's like, it's too cold to be out here?
Oh, I told you I'm going to get a heater. I'm going to be out here.
Okay.
Well, just to let you guys know, last episode, it's called What's My Name? This one, we're going to return the favor and talk to my wife. So what your name is?
My original name was Kanika Cherie Williams. It's my government.
Really? So
it was.
How was it growing up with that ethnic name?
Because first we go through the man who had the Eurocentric name. Why not go through mine? Well, my mom chose my name. She wanted an African name. She wanted it to be this beautiful African name. My brother's name is Kari, spelled with a K. So she wanted my name to be spelled with a K as well. And then Cherie, she just chose that because it went well with Kanika. And then Williams was from my dad. So for me, feelings assigned to my name. So the easiest one, Williams, I had a relationship with my dad. It wasn't always the greatest relationship, but I know people who would be like, I couldn't wait to get rid of his name because, my relationship with my parent, blah, blah, blah. For me, it was as simple as young as I was, I hated being at the end of the line when they had to do alphabetical whatever in elementary and stuff.
Oh, man.
So stupid. And so I had determined when I was younger that I was not going to be with anybody whose name was at the end of the alphabet. Cherie doesn't have any real meaning to me. The only thing about it is, like, if my mom was mad, she'd say, Kanika Cherie. That was the only time I really heard my name. So Cherie doesn't really do anything. But that daggone Kanika, boy, that thing will take you through some times when people don't want to say your name right, or they don't want to, they don't really care to say your name correctly, or they brush it off. They look at it and decide that it's too hard to say. And so then they don't even try. That hurts.
When you say it hurts, why does it hurt?
Because it's not hard. It's just that you have to care to listen. It's not hard. And what's crazy is that I remember when I was younger, somebody said, but they can say Michelangelo and they can say Schwarzenegger. Yeah, they can. They can say other names.
We learned how to say that off of television.
Yeah, there were a lot of names that people would say, and I'm like, how did, like, that was more acrobatic than my name. But
what if they didn't want to disrespect your name?
That is something. So in the exercise at work, it was a room full of us. Not really. It was a virtual room full of us. And so everybody goes through and they tell the story of their name, right? They talk about the history of their name, if they associate any good feelings with certain names. And so my statement when I was talking, I said, one of the things that bothers me is that people feeling like people don't even want to try to learn how to say your name, and it's not hard. I remember at one point in school, even into nursing school, I think I had gone so far into that. I would write, you know how you do the little name tents at your desk when you're at new trainings and stuff. And underneath my name, I would write my name phonetically, so people would know how to say it. So it'd be a lowercase K-U-H, K, and then a dash, and then a capital N, capital E, me, and then a lowercase K-U-H, Kanika, right? Fools was still, look, they ain't want to try, right? So in this particular training, we're all online. And so it was like, once you've done your name, then you call on somebody else in the room. And in my head, I was like, there are people who don't want to disrespect you by saying your name wrong. There's some people who will be like, if I say this wrong, please tell me. Or they'll start off by saying, I think I might butcher this, but, right? But in my head, I was looking at all of the names of the people. You know, names easy, not necessarily their names, but I'm going to say like Jacqueline, Melinda, stuff like that. And so I was looking at the names and I saw it was my name and it was another African name. And I said, one of us is going to be the last one to get called. No lie. So
why didn't you call it?
It wasn't my turn yet.
Oh.
Like, I'm just watching when they said, this is the worst part, when somebody says, these are the anxieties that I have. So when they said, okay, then you call on the next name, I immediately looked at the list of names because I was like, I'm going to be last. And then I saw another name and I said, it's going to be one of us. So we're going through, still, nobody's calling me. So for somebody said, I don't want to mess this up, but I'm going to say, and they said my name correctly. And I said, that's my name. So I go ahead and I do the little thing. And then I didn't choose the last person because there was another name there that looked like a person I went to middle school with. So when I said her name, I said, did you go to such and such? And she said, yeah. She said, but I knew how to say her name too. And she said, look, I had already decided, like when you said that your name was probably going to be the last one, she said, I had already said, if they call me and she isn't called, I'm going to say that name because I know that name. And so I'm laughing, but it's a fear. And it's crazy because at the end, the other person whose name was an African name, she said, Kanika, when she said that, that was immediately what I did. I looked at the names and I said, I'm going to be last. And she said, and here I am, I'm last, right? But going through it, it's like I've gone through the point where I would just tell people to call me Kay instead of messing up my name. But I didn't want them to call me that, but it's better than having to hear you say my name wrong over and over and over again. And I mean, after a while, it's like, if I say your name, you know, the thing they teach you, like if you learn somebody's name, say it to yourself 3 times or even to them out loud, just so you can get into the flow of saying the name. I know that there are people who I've said my name and they just brush over me like, oh, and they go on about their business. Like, and then they don't say your name ever again because it didn't process. And
but I mean, people do that with regular names.
Yeah. Well, let me tell you. So since we lived, and I probably have said this before, but since we moved into this community, it's a lot, it's filled with white people, and they're older white people predominantly. And that was my thing when we first started introducing ourselves to people. I would say, oh, my name is Kay. So it was John and Kay. But I told John, I said, I do not feel comfortable. Like, this is supposed to be where I'm going to live for years and years on end, and I don't want people to know me as a name that I don't even really identify with. Like, I identified as Kay Lewis when I was a teacher because there was another teacher. Lewis. There was another Lewis. But other than that, I didn't go by that name. And so then I started just saying my name is Kanika. So we were walking one day, and this lady, she introduced herself, and she introduced herself as D. And so we're talking, and John says, I'm John. And I said, and I'm Kanika. And she said, oh, my name is Denisha. Is it Denisha? Mm-hmm. Yeah. She said, my name is Denisha. This is an old white woman. She said, but I just go by D. Now, I'm not going to sit here and ask you why you go by D. However, in my head, I was like, maybe she'll remember my name because it sounds like hers. And when I said it, she was like, oh, okay. Like it was nothing. But why did I even care? I don't know. But it's something that has just been, that has come with me, you know. And because in a Black community, nobody really bothered me about my name because it was Jamaica and Tamika and Shamika, and it was all kind of other names growing up. So it wasn't really an issue.
So when did you notice it was something that could bother you? How old were you?
That was in elementary when people weren't saying my name
correctly. I know, but was it bothering you then?
I don't think it bothered me until maybe college. Like, I think I was used to a lot of the people that I went into elementary with, they followed me into middle school. We all went together. You know, nobody really, I didn't leave that same school pathway. So people knew me growing up. And some of the teachers were teachers of my older brother. So they were going to know my name as well. I started spelling my name phonetically, though, in school. So I knew it was hard for people to say, but it didn't bother me until I became an adult. And I was like, y'all got to do better. Like,
it's interesting that you say that that's hard to spell or pronounce. Like, I would have never thought that.
Yeah, but I think it's not hard to pronounce for people. It's that people already decide that it doesn't look like Sandra. And then they're like, I'm probably going to mess this up.
Well, I don't like saying Sandra because it could be Sandra.
Right. But
so to me, I feel like that's the way I view it. Like, if I don't really say, I'm a apologize for if I butcher your name unless it's a possibility, because I don't want to have any disrespect. But I think that we're all trying to figure out how not to offend people. And typically we may think something could be offensive when that's the best way that they could do it without looking in their way to be offensive.
Yeah. So then there's this other thing. So I feel like sometimes people dismiss my name because it's not Eurocentric, in the sense that they'll be able to carry on a conversation with me without directly saying my name, and that will save them.
Like, what do you mean?
So one of the things that's different now, Zoom has been recently released on virtual meetings. So I'm in this committee, and one of the chairs, one of the co-chairs, is interesting. I have been a part of this committee for 2 years. I've been the liaison. And one of the co-chairs, he's probably said my name 3 times. Might have been immediately after the first one did. He's white, she's Black. And so, but there are plenty of people who said my name correctly, whether white or Black, in this committee, period, point blank. But anyway, so we're talking, it's like 18 months into me in this position. And he was like, Kanika, can we blah, 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 blah. And the thing about a virtual meeting is you're not sitting in a room with somebody so you can look at them and direct your question. It's just a bunch of profile pictures. So you have to call out who you want. And he said my name wrong. And I was like, all of this time, I'm just being generous by saying he may have said my name 3 times. But when he said that, I was like, you couldn't even care to say, like, you
Does
didn't
he have that many employees?
I'm saying, I don't know. But it really, really got me because there's been, as a co-chair, I've had to communicate with him a number of times, but it'll be on email. You know what I'm saying? It wouldn't be a voicemail. We wouldn't be in meetings. He wouldn't hear other people saying my name, true enough. But it just brought back that same feel.
I think being in that position, if you don't know for sure, you have to call somebody that knows this person and say, how do you pronounce this? So that they understand, because y'all have a relationship. But man, that had to suck.
It did. It made me feel like I was like,
I wonder what other people were thinking that knew.
You know what? I wish I would have asked the other chair, though, the other co-chair. I wish I would have been like, girl, what did you think about that? But you know what? After that, a lot of things took place where he ended up not being a co-chair anymore. She just took over the complete position because he just wasn't involved enough. And that's another thing. Everybody else would say my name. He probably would have caught on if he was in more meetings. But
Hey, can I ask you a question? Like, this is just, if you want to be fun. Like, you remember Key and Peele.
Yeah.
A.A. Ryan.
Yes.
So just imagine like regular names, and you just start pronouncing them wrong.
I know.
No, what I'm
like
saying.
If I was just in meetings and just
like he was like
Jamise,
James.
I wish you know what? There might be a meeting one day where I just start calling everybody a name. So that I'm that person in the office where people. I had a section gathering this week. It's the first time we've seen each other in over 2 years. And so I came in and I'm just talking and somebody asked me a question and I've been responding or whatever. And there's a girl. It's crazy. I say girl because I think we're all girls, but we're women. This woman that I went to school with, she said, "Do you do stand up on the weekend?" I was like, and now I have to think back to make sure. I'm like, I hope my face didn't look crazy because I was like, no. But people see me as someone who tries to make the mood light. I think I might just do that. I might just call somebody Stev or
Charisti.
Charisti.
Christy. Charisti.
Christy.
No, ain't it Christ? Charisti.
Yes, but like Christ.
Oh, you stupid.
Christ
Yeah. But anyway, back to your name.
Oh, yeah, but anyway. So, I don't know. I didn't really have a problem with my community. It was all other communities. I guess like the opposite. Your name was your name was fine with everybody. It was just the fact that you were part Korean. But for me, it's those outside of me. And the other thing that I learned in college, the one beautiful thing about Facebook, when Facebook started, and that was when we were out of college, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, when we got access to it.
Yeah, it used to be really, really interesting because it would be like groups that would just show up out of nowhere, right? It was a Kanika group. There were like 123 Kanikas in this group. But the majority of them, their last name was like Patel or something, that was more so West Asian, in origin. However, it was like to see so many Kanikas was so nice. And then it began to make sense to me when people of different backgrounds could say my name correctly just off the rip. And then I was like, oh, that's why. Because I've always known it as coming from the Mweran language out of, I think, Kenya. But it's also in Sanskrit, and I did not know that. So it really, really helped me. And then two of my very best friends in in elementary school were Mexican. And one of them, her dad used to love to say my name, Canikas. Well, apparently Kanika in Spanish is marbles or something. And so he used to say, Canikas, I love saying your name. And I was like, why are you saying my name like that? But it's like certain people, it was not hard. So then it made it even worse for me when people couldn't say it right. Because it's like, then you don't care. Oh, you're doing this. I don't know. My name is a part of who I am. Like we talked about all the different things you were known as. They were all a part of who you were.
Yeah.
But like for me, the name Kanika, it is that's what everyone called me outside of my family calling me Nika. And so you not being able to say that, it's like the foundation of whether or not I choose to really respect you.
So let me ask you a question. So what if the person's never met you?
Okay.
They're on Zoom and they call you and they say, Kanika Lewis?
Oh.
Hold on. No. When they say that, do you have like a ill feeling, or do you be like, that's a simple mistake? No, it's Kanika. Like, are you like, you should have got it right the first time?
No. I understand that people may not get it right the first time. I'm fine with that. And I would be like, oh, it's Kanika.
Okay, no, I was just wondering, like,
yeah. But it's interesting because I was on a call for one of the programs we're on, and one of the hosts, who was like the moderator. Her name was, let's just say, I don't know how let's say her name was Jamis or whatever, and people were calling her Jamise, and she was like, somebody was like, Jamise, can we da 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 da? Now these are other people in her organization, and she was like, oh, it's perfectly fine, but I'm Jamis, and then she would go on about her business and conduct herself like it's nothing. There were 3 people from her organization that all said her name wrong, and each time she corrected each person. And it was like, they're from her organization and they're not even saying her name right. And every time she had, because she was the moderator, she had her camera on, her face never changed. She would correct them with her name and she would move on. And it was like nothing happened. She wasn't angry or anything. It was like, it was her regular way of being, that she had to constantly tell people, no, it's Jamis, it's Jamis, it's Jamis, or whatever. And it was like infuriating for me.
How was it spelled?
I don't know. It was probably spelled like Denise, Jamise, or something like that.
Okay.
It was something where I understood why they said it. But when she corrected the first time,
everybody should have heard that.
Yeah, you would think that if somebody
I was wrong.
Yeah, if someone stops to pause and say, this is my name, it means take notice so that you can say it correctly. Then when the second person did it.
But even though, like, when somebody says it, it should correct in your head, like, oh, I was wrong. I'm glad she said that.
Yes. But it was 3 different people.
That's what I'm saying. So they're not paying attention.
Nobody was paying attention. And so I don't know if I was paying attention because I was sensitive to it, or if other people were and it just wasn't. But it bothered me even more for her because they were in her organization. I think one person wasn't and the other 2 were. But I felt like if she corrected the first time, you should have taken note, like, oh, I would have said Jamise too. It's this. When she said it the second time, I was like, now look. But the third time, I wanted to get on there and say, she said.
But you know what? You probably, think about this from creating a different energy. You just come on and say, what's her name again?
It's Jamis.
You just say, excuse me, Jamis.
Right.
When is the first break or something like that where you can...
Yeah, well,
then she can come on and be like, "Thank you for asking that."
Well, there were people who said her name right.
No, I'm saying,
but immediately following, have somebody say that. I don't recall the order, but I know that there were 3 people scattered throughout the meeting who said it incorrectly. It wasn't like the first 3 times and it was all in a row, and so it just bothers me probably because I'm sensitive to it.
Well, I think it bothers me because that means somebody's not paying attention. And then I can understand like the first one again, but like if you do it again, it's like definitely, and you're the moderator.
Right. So you already introduced yourself, number 1.
Like in no part of this did you like listen?
No. And so I think that that's what made me so mindful of Day and Dallas's names. I wanted them to be pronounced correctly, and I didn't mind Dallas's name. The name we chose for him was Kyung for his middle name, and I liked his name, and I didn't mind it because it being different like me. It didn't trigger me in regards to what goes on with me because it would have been his middle name. They would have at least said Dallas Lewis or Day Lewis. I wouldn't expect anybody to just say their name, incorrectly because their names are easy to say. But I was very mindful of that. Like, I had people who, when they had their kids, and true enough, most of the time it was when they were younger. My friends who've had their kids and were older, like if they had kids after 30, the names are completely different than my friends who had kids when they were younger.
Of course. Because
the ones that are younger, they were a lot more free with the names they chose. Like they could, they might have an apostrophe in it. Like they might have I remember, it's not the child's name, but it's very similar to the child's name of somebody when we were in high school. I think they had their child named her Alexiana or something like that. I have friends that when they were younger, it didn't really bother them. And also when their name was an easy name to say, like Kendra, then they were a lot more free with what name they chose for their child. I just wanted to sound pretty. And then when you get older, my friends who had their kids after we had been through college, grad school, we're in the workforce and stuff, the names they chose for their kids were much more Eurocentric than the ones from before.
Because I think that depending on what route you take in life, you can become more interested in assimilating into a society that you believe is correct. So
yeah, and I never really asked because all my other I have one friend whose name is similar to mine, but but her husband's isn't. I wonder if they even think the way that I do about names. Was it just natural for them to choose one of those names? It's just that I like it, or were they consciously saying I can't go in this direction? Like for me, I knew as a young person that I was not going to be. It wasn't going to be I wasn't going to purposefully choose a Eurocentric name, but the names, like my mom gave me the African book that my name came from. And I gotta find that book. And I used to go through that book and look for names that were African, but I knew looking at it, you'd be able to say it easier than saying my name. And that's crazy because my name is easy. But I had already decided that there was going to be a level of ease in how to pronounce the name so that I didn't have to worry about them feeling the same way that I felt.
That's very thoughtful.
Right. It's crazy. And for me to grow up the way, well, not grow up, but even as an adult, you used to call me a little baby militant and stuff like that. And it didn't make me feel bad. But at the same time, I was like, but there's still some things that I'm not going to cross. There's still some things that I will veer away from just to protect my kids from having to deal with the same type of things that I did in relation to my name. Names, to me, they mean so much.
It's and I think as I evolve into these humans, that's going to be so dope. Like the name is going to be a lot more important than it is now. Like like let's put, what could this really mean?
Well, and this is another thing. So one of the people that was in the training with me, she shared, and we said that we would not share specifics about other people's stories. So that we all felt safe talking about it. And I will say that the conversation was so deep. It was the best icebreaker I had ever had, because the icebreaker is so you can know the people that you're going to be in this room with. And we were in this room for 2 days, learning about different equity situations or what have you. And it really taught you more about the people, things that matter, not, 2 truths and a lie, or do you like potatoes over broccoli? It was like, man, that's where you came from. Like, this is telling me your history all summed up in your name. And so this one particular person, she was a moderator, and she and her partner had decided when they got married that they were not going to take either one of their names. What they had chosen to do was they were going to choose a whole new last name. So let's say it's not the last name they chose, but let's say that both of them liked basketball, so their last name would be Ball. Or both of them liked French fries, so their last name would be Fry, right? And so it was a name that they didn't have no ill feelings toward their last names, but they didn't have any meaningful connection to it, and they were coming together. So they decided to take a whole new name together that was related to what they like. Yeah. And so the idea that and somebody else in our training, they were like, I'm getting married, and I'm going to talk to my partner about that to see if that's something we want to do. Because it's no slight against your family. It's just saying this is my new one. And so when you say names are going to mean something different, I mean, even last names.
Yeah, that's dope. I think that's something we should consider moving forward.
Are we going to be D-grade, D-apostrophe grade?
Keeping it hood.
Closely related to.
I wanted to ask you because I know, well, I just also wanted to say, like, this is a great icebreaker or a great conversation starter with your mate.
Oh yeah.
Because I feel like you can learn. So I feel like I knew a lot of that stuff, but I feel like I learned so much more just listening to you describe things differently. Because you hear things and you like, dang, I didn't look at it like that. So I think that was pretty dope.
Yeah, and the exercise, it was kind of cool because there were people not giving their information, but there were people who were describing how their name, they kept certain parts of their. Ooh, there was someone who was, I want to say, I can't say what culture they're from, I can't remember, but in their village that their family is from, they're a first generation American, but in the country that their family came from, in their village, all the women took this particular last name, no matter who they married. And the name was a derivative of God. And she felt like it was so powerful that she decided to keep it, even though they don't practice as many of the traditions. She was like, that was important to me. And it was another person who said they didn't like one of their names because it was associated with a parent who wasn't the best parent. And when they talked to them and when they called them this name, that's what it meant, that it was trouble, and it meant that it was that parent. And so they never used that name. And so I think that, and that's why I'm saying it was really, really an amazing, you have to have an agreement when you start those types of icebreakers or meetings to say that, everybody is giving of themselves. So we need to be private and keep these things to ourselves. And that's why I can't really disclose who says what or the details, but it just shows the depth of what you can get in talking to somebody about it. And so in a workplace, that was an amazing experience. But like you said, even talking to your mate, then you realize why they don't want you, why Matt doesn't want you to call him Matthew, or why, whatever the case may be. You learn things. I remembered things that I didn't even know I was remembering. Like I never acknowledged it until I had to sit there and think on it. And I was like, oh, that's why that name means something to me, or this name doesn't mean as much, or whatever.
For sure.
I mean, I remember you used to say, you used to call me Scree. And you told me my name is SCHR, and he used to say this should be a sk sound. And I was like, no. And I'm sitting here trying to find different examples of Schneider and Schroeder and stuff. And like, it can be why? But that was his thing with me. But one thing I will not forget is that you are the first man that has ever told me my name was pretty. Kanika was pretty. I've never heard that from anybody before. And considering how playful and sometimes thoughtless you used to be with things you would say, and how you used to mess with Scree, you saying Kanika was pretty, it meant a lot to me. And I didn't even realize that until I was talking about how you used to talk about Scree. That made me mad. But yeah.
I always think just these conversations make you learn how much you didn't know, or how much you can learn about somebody on a simple conversation about a name.
I never knew people called you soy sauce.
Yeah. Soy sauce, Koreatown, and fortune cookie.
Yeah, I never knew that. I didn't know that there was, I didn't know. So yeah, you learn something new.
Thanks, yeah.
So there are all these games that come out. I see a flash up on Instagram of, these questions to ask, these in deep conversation questions to ask your partner at a dinner table. But this is something that can be fun, but it can also be something that pulls other emotions out.
Definitely. At least you use this time to get to know the person that you want to grow with. Everything's important. I
mean, or anybody, like when you're supposed to get to know somebody quickly, like if you're, I have not dealt with it, but if you're getting into an organization and you're meeting the people that you're going to be going through an experience with to become a part of the organization, that's a good way of learning who you're with, who's in the room.
Yeah.
And
I think that's a mature way of doing it.
Yeah, I think so. Or even like later on, I'm interested to know, I felt like we safeguarded Day and Dallas a lot with their names. I wonder what their explanation will be. What will they say their name means to them and the things behind it?
Yeah, that'll be dope to even ask them. Now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
But anybody you want to give a shout out before we get out of here?
The Jerry
Curl Juice
Girls. I didn't get to give a shout out to them the last time, but man, when I say that really was interesting, I was like, I never knew.
Yeah, they knew it too.
And I love that you guys are still like friends on social media. So because it's like there are a lot of people that I knew that left meaningful moments on me that I can't really find them, but that'll be funny. I wonder how much they remember of that time.
Oh, they remember that time. I remember they came over my house. They was like, cause I live near a mall, and it was like, we going to Basham Mountain. They rode on my bus. No lie, they got up on my bus stop. They came to my house and met my dad.
Really?
I am not lying. I just remember, no lie. They said, we going to see where little Korea live. like, I am not lying. I got these girls just walking me home.
Well, shout out to y'all.
Yep. Shout out to Bruno and Kingston for keeping the missus and I in fighting trim. We are out here in these streets walking them regularly, and we are for real about it.
They even got meaning behind their name, but we won't talk about it.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, good boys.
But y'all be great on purpose.
Yeah.
Boom.